Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. Here I am in front of Edinburgh Castle on the Esplanade. I've filmed here before, so I shan't say too much about Edinburgh Castle. I'll get too close. Anyway, this is where the Edinburgh Tomb is held, right in front of the castle, which has been going since about 1947. I made another video about that. So I don't propose to say a great deal more. But there you can see the hills to the south, or maybe you can't because of the lack of colour contrast. Actually, we make it darker. No, you still can't see it. Never mind. I can see it with the naked eye. Various buildings that you're not really going to recognise. And this is like the old hospital. Anyway, I'm about to take on a tour of the Royal Mile, which is the most historic street in Scotland and amongst the most famous streets in the British Isles. And it's really staggering how much of Scotland's history has taken place on one street. Another thing to note about it is that it's actually slightly more than a mile going by usual measurement because it's plus 1/8. Okay, so it runs from Edinburgh Castle, the top of Edinburgh Rock here, this dormant volcano, down towards Holyrood House, and I've also filmed down there a bit. Anyway, so it's not usually used as a car park. That's the entrance to the castle, and yes, it's open to the public for a fee, and there are a few soldiers in there to this day, occasionally Gurkhas. And so much has happened there that Robert the Bruce managed to capture it when he was fighting around about 1300, because it was in the hands of King Edward I, King of England, who also dubbed himself King of Scots, and he had some tenuous claim to it. Robert the Bruce's claim wasn't exactly watertight either. One of Robert the Bruce's soldiers had lived in the castle as a teenager, and of course the castle gates had been locked at night. But this follower of Robert the Bruce said, but when I was an adolescent, I wanted to climb down into the town to see my friends at night. So I know a way to climb over the walls, and there is one path, one can pass abreast at a time, and it's a very, very steep hillside on either side, and you get out that way and back in. And he showed Robert Bruce's men the way in and out, and then they won. They got in and they won. Anyway, so there's quite a few war memorials around here. There's one to Field Marshal Sir Douglas Haig, Earl Haig as he later was, but I shan't bother filming that. I might tell you about it another time. You see the Union flag atop the battlements and the Scots saltire. You probably can't make it out from this distance. So a gun goes off there at a certain time every day. I think it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and as they say, tourists duck for cover and locals just check their watches. Anyway, so we're going to see quite a few examples of the Scots saltire. Is it saltire, saltire? There it is behind me. Yeah, the St Andrew's Cross is also known as, because St Andrew is one of the 12 disciples. He was Greek, had a Greek name. There were a lot of sort of Hellenistic people there in the Near East at the time. But when he was going to be crucified, he said he felt unworthy to be crucified in the same manner as our Saviour, so requested to be crucified in an exchange. So his wish was granted. I'm not saying rather not be crucified at all, but you know, that's just me. Anyway, so he was crucified in the shape of an X, and years later, St Regulus brought his bones to Scotland, or St Rule as you sometimes know. I'm not quite sure why he felt compelled to do that, and buried them at the city which is now St Andrews. It's the patron saint of Scotland. And when some of the early missionaries were evangelising the Christian faith, they tried to persuade people to convert to Christianity. And the King of Scots suddenly saw the clouds in the sky form themselves into the shape of an X, like the St Andrew's Cross. He took that and he won the battle and converted to Christianity. I forget which battle that is. Anyway, here are some of the things you can see in Edinburgh Castle. See the gun going off on the ramparts there, as in the artillery piece. So now we begin wending our way down the Royal Mile, and you'll notice they've got cobblestone here, and the military parades up and down occasionally. So you can't swing a cat without hitting a gift shop. This is not exactly a popular time of year for tourism, but there are plenty touristicos around, and you're hearing tours going in Spanish, for example. So it's such a magnificent city with such a checkered past, so exciting, absolutely replete with lore, and so many of the most renowned writers of the English language have resided in this city. It's also got a deservedly superb reputation for education. Obviously, Edinburgh University, one of the foremost in the Commonwealth, rated about 20th in the world by QSI in World University rankings. Okay, oh look, Scotch Whisky Experience. Do you know it spells whiskey without the E? In Irish whiskey, ours was with an E, key as in key, open the door. and notice it's Scotch. I know the adjective for things from Scotland is usually Scottish or Scots, but with regard to whiskey, it's Scotch. You can simply say Scotch, people know you're talking about whiskey. So obviously it comes from the Irish words Ishkabaha, as in the water of life. Now, in Scotland, people speak, well, some people on the west coast, a few villages, they speak Scots Gaelic, as they call it, just Gaelic. But really, Scots Gaelic and Irish are the same language, like 99% the same. They just have a sort of more sing-song intonation here, but the cadences are not any barrier to comprehension. And there's a witchery restaurant. Some people firmly believed in there was sorceresses around, warlocks and so forth. And this is going into the early 18th century. They used to swim witches. Now over that side is Princess Street Gardens, and that was the Norloch, as in the North Lake, until the late 18th century. And they suspected someone was a witch, that him or her, because a witch can be a man, they would tie the person up and throw them in the lake and see if they swim or not. They would give them holy water first. If you drown, then you're innocent, but you've killed the person. Oh well, doesn't matter, you'll go straight to heaven. And if you die, if you don't die, if the water's rejecting you because you're so unnatural and unclean, and then you'll be burnt. Nice. Here burned, in England hanged, the left is slowly strangled, so maybe even worse. The witchery, look at all those weird and sinister symbols of the occult. Oh yeah, another flag of Scotland you'll see behind me. Can you make it out? The lion ramp and that red lion on its two hind legs standing up. Bit distant because it's a rather blustery day. There was some very potent squalls a little bit earlier on. Anyway, so they brightened it up by having some, what would you call it, white plaster in this building. So many granite buildings, it's sometimes just unremittingly grey. There's so many churches, you'd swear that people have got nothing to do but attend divine worship here. So it was a sort of holy city of Presbyterianism. John Knox was a Catholic priest here, and he was really the father of the Scots Reformation, because there was only one type of Christianity permitted in Western Europe until the early 17th century, and that was Catholicism. And so some of the Catholic clergy, they were convinced by Protestant Nostra, and the Reformation, as we know it, really began in Germany in 1517 with Martin Luther at Wittenberg, writing his 95 Theses, complained strictly about indulgences. It was not a general broadside against the Catholic Church, that Augustinian monk. He did not nail them onto the door. That's a 19th century Protestant myth. He wrote them. And it was it was All Souls Day, I think, when he did it as well. Wittenberg Lutherstadt, as it was later called, that city. But anyway, and these notions became popular here by the mid-16th century. There was a sort of reformation from below. Some of the aristocratic clergy, some of the that was it. It wasn't the monarchy imposing it, because of course the Queen of Scots, Mary Queen of Scots, she moved to France as an infant and only returned at the age of 18, at which time the succeeded her mother, Marie de Guise, who was here trying to hold the throne not very effectively. Okay, so this bit of the Royal Mile we just passed off is called Castle Hill, and no prizes for guessing why it's called that. Now, as if one church isn't enough, there's another one just across the street, which is tightly. Anyway, raise the ventilation if we can hear at all. Edinburgh Rock. And their various alleyways called the Winds, W-I-N-D. Behind me is the General Assembly Hall of the Church of Scotland, this door, and there it says it. Some of you can even read. So the Church of Scotland is the church as by law established in Scotland. Some will say not established, we're a national church. I don't quite get the difference, but anyway, Her Britannic Majesty, when she's here in North Britain, she worships in the Church of Scotland. When she's in South Britain, she worships in the Church of England. So there you get a better idea of the size of the building. But anyway, the Scottish Parliament, when it was resurrected in 1999, met there for the first 5 years, whilst its headquarters at the bottom of this street were being completed. Anyway, the new Scottish Parliament buildings cost over 10 times the original estimate. It was the architects were a husband and wife pair from Spain, I think more precisely Catalonia, and perhaps has some fellow feeling for the Scottish nationalist cause. Although when Scotland's Parliament came back after, my goodness, 292 years, the idea is that it would not lead to complete separation from the UK. It was going to make people want to stay within the UK. Why is it shining so much? It's like I have a halo or something, I don't know what's Anyway, so carry on going down the Royal Mile. So the idea was this is the evolution in the United Kingdom of Scotland's got now. And in Ireland, Home Rule in the 19th century was really just that same idea, but didn't really take effect. It took effect in May 1921 for about a week. And when we had a Home Rule Parliament meeting in Dublin, the only people who showed up were the Unionists, the very people who had opposed it, because all the other members of Parliament for the Parliament of Southern Ireland were Sinn Féiners. He refused to recognise the Crown's authority, so it was a dead letter right from the get-go. Anyway, so there are lots of these upmarket shops to buy trinkets, so many boutiques if you want to kit yourself out in kitsch. So there, you know, you too can wear these winter woolens and be very chic. So this street's got a certain élan vital, I think you'll agree. But even at this time of year, it's busy with life, though the weather is uninviting out of doors. Anyway, so well, it's not really pedestrianised, but there's not that much traffic on it, as you can see. So they're built up very much, quite difficult to build on these slopes. So Riddle's Court, a little courtyard there, famous ecologists lived there in the 19th century. And so many of these little alleyways are called something or other court, or wind, W-Y-N-D, as in alleyway. They spell it with a Y, so you don't think it's wind. Anyway, a bit of the National Library of Scotland. Very nice. Used to be a tiny police station here, and then where it's gone. Okay, and then there's a plaque to Robert Burns, Scotland's national poet, who stayed over there on his first sojourn in Edinburgh. So is Scotland a nation? It's debatable. Is the United Kingdom a nation? There's no clear definition, but most people would say it is. Can you have a nation inside the nation? Arguably. Now, we're coming on to Brodie's Close, a alleyway, or perhaps a little courtyard in there. And there's a model of the man, more or less life-size, because people were shorter in those days. They were said to be slightly on the short side. Give you some sort of idea. Strikingly lifelike, okay? So we're on the level. Deacon, I know it can mean a church position, but in this case it's head of a guild. A guild, a group of people who work in the same occupation, like a professional association. They regulate standards and prices and so forth. They've got a welfare aspect to them. But anyway, he was deacon of some guild, I can't remember which one or others, but he had access to lots of people's houses and keys, and he was a very respectable citizen. But he used to burgle them at night. Eventually he was caught, and he was hanged very close to this place on a scaffold of his own design. That's why over there was Deacon Brodie's Tavern to commemorate him. Okay, so we're going at a fairly sedate pace down here. Don't want to rush it. You see even more churches down that way. They're certainly not short of churches here, but you know, they just don't have that many churchgoers because not many people live here. Now here, I'm going to see République Française. They got the French consulate. There are quite a few consulates. There's a German consulate and there's a Romanian consulate. I can't think what other ones. There's a Russian one as well here in Edinburgh, Russian visa office. Okay, there's the statue of David Hume, that renowned philosopher of Edinburgh University. He didn't actually graduate, publishing so many books and being a Tory historian. Okay, this plaque here commemorates the last public execution in Caledonia, which took place just here. You can see those, those three brass plaques on the street marks the place where the chap he was given the drop for committing murder, and there's a high court over there. So there are lots of advocates around here. That's the equivalent of barrister in England, Wales, or Ireland. Anyway, so the Scottish Parliament that existed up until 1707 met here towards the end. Okay, and that was a bit. And we're going to see St Giles's Cathedral, belongs to the Church of Scotland. Now, the Church of Scotland doesn't have bishops or archbishops. It doesn't even have priests, actually. An ordinary religious leader in church is called a minister, and therefore it usually doesn't have cathedrals, because you have a bishop or an archbishop in a cathedral. This is the one exception, St Giles's Cathedral, which is sort of mother church of the Church of Scotland. Very historic indeed. I've filmed inside it before, so I shan't do so again. Here's a monument to the Duke of Queensferry, and you can see his rather fetchingly turned leg, wearing tights or whatever. He's dressed there in his robes as a member of the Order of the Garter. Now, you see this heart shape here in the stonework. There it is. That's the heart of Midlothian. Okay, so Lothian is a county, and we're in Lothian, and Lothian is subdivided into East Lothian, West Lothian, and Mid Lothian. So this is Mid Lothian, or you can also call it Edinburghshire, but I've never noticed that. That's what they're Lothian buses and so on. And Sir Walter Scott, that early 18th century poet and novelist, he wrote the Waverley series of novels, and indeed the Heart of Midlothian, and he gives his name to his football team, Hearts. The proper name of that football team is Heart of Midlothian, founded in 1873. It must be the only football team in the world which takes its name from a novel. Okay, so you're getting the idea that there are plenty of trinkets and mementos to be purchased here, and you can even get a free tour. I've been on a ghost tour down these various alleyways. Look, advocates close, advocate as in lawyer, advocate for you. This'll do nicely. That's called a pun, in case you didn't know. Okay, angels with bagpipes, and you often see some buskers playing the bagpipes. So, Hogmanay, that's another word for New Year, is a huge deal here, huge parades. So they have a good old knees up, and according to Scots tradition, it's an omen of good fortune if the first person who enters your house on New Year, as in could be a minute after midnight, New Year's Day, was a man with black hair carrying a lump of coal. So that will be a sign of happy augury. Okay, so St Giles' Cathedral again. I'm not sure if St Giles had anything to do with Scotland, shows what I know. And there's going to be another court building over there. There you get the idea. Shan't go into them all. And there's the Society of Signet Writers, some sort of lawyers professional association. I wonder if it's for solicitors rather than advocates. And in Scotland, a solicitor is called a solicitor. So now this bit, this is Market Cross, as in Market Cross. And look at that persevere, that coat of arms with the angel holding the infant and the ears of God. Then we've got Sic itur ad astra. Thus go to the stars, and look at the stag's head and the cross. And then the coat of arms of the University of Edinburgh, which has got this sort of inverted St Andrew's cross. Has got blue on white, rather white on blue, and the thistle above, and the golden book. And then the three lions passant of England. I think they're originally of Normandy. And then I'm not sure what this bit of the coat of arms is. That woman in blue, like a Madonna, and this doe trying to climb the walls of a castle or something. And then the lion rampant of Scotland. Can you see it? Is it too dark? Do I need to make it brighter? The lion rampant of Scotland, because it's kind of a bit blurry, the image I'm seeing of myself. God, or is that me? I've just gone blurry. Age does cruel things to you. The royal coat of arms of the two supporters. Okay, and then we've got the St George's Cross of England, great name, on the right, and then the St Andrew's Cross on the left, and the lion and the unicorn. Okay, the thistle, the red rose of England, and the shamrock of Ireland. Okay, last and definitely not least, best of all, look at that, St Patrick's blue, the real colour of Ireland, with the gold carp of Ireland, with a woman's body on the left. We're a bit pornographic actually, sometimes I show her topless, but they're a bit prudish here. And we've got the shamrocks on either side and the crown above us, because we are a monarchical people. That's very much a tradition in Ireland. It's royalism, not republicanism. We've only had a republic in part of Ireland, okay, most of it, since 1949. And there is a door there which can be opened occasionally, and royal proclamations are read from up there when guys dress up as playing cards. The solution of Westminster Parliament was proclaimed there, and the election was called. Look at that. Look at the what you call it up there. The shield. Okay, this is called Parliament Square. This bit, because that was part of the Parliament building. In the old days, there was a House of Commons, House of Lords, and in time, if you go back far enough, they actually and much more disappointed. In some ways, it was actually dominated, or less absolute monarchy. There's Adam Smith. I've spoken about it very extensively elsewhere. So again, Cafe Nero, I'm a sucker for the loyalty cards. I thought they were American or Italian or something. They're not. They're actually British. They're founded in London in the mid-90s. Okay, so the Tourist Information Centre says Alba, which is the Gaelic word for Scotland. But I wonder if it's because of the Latin word for white. Because you can see the white cliffs of Dover on the continent, and people in mainland Europe just see that and say white and apply it to the whole island, perhaps. Old fish market down there. Yeah, I'm not much of a pescatarian myself, and a bit of a customer hub, so as in customers being people who live in the city, as in the city council, provide providing services to them. So the fringe shops. So the Edinburgh Fringe began in 1947. There was some chap, I can't remember his name, he was a German Jewish refugee. He wanted to found the drama festival in a UK city, but not London. He said Liverpool will never be a festival city. Well, thanks a lot, the Scouts will say. They were European capital of culture, not He considered Oxford because it's big enough but not too big, it's close enough to London, and great transport links and loads of colleges, loads of performance spaces which aren't too big. Good drama tradition as it is. But he said actually no, it's too close to London. And then Edinburgh is a very cultural city. Again, it's about the right size, it has enough theatres, all the rest of it is reasonably far from London, yet it's accessible, you know, got good transport links, and so it took off, and it was a very minor thing. So there's a proper drama festival for like well-established theatre companies in the city's several theatres. There were more of them back then because most people didn't have telly, but it grew, and then things happened on the fringe of the Edinburgh Festival. So I should say Edinburgh Festivals. There's a main drama festival, there's a fringe festival where anyone, as lowly as even me, can perform. It's not unjuried, there's no quality control, and there are loads of street performances, comedy, juggling, magic tricks, whatever, storytelling, improvisation. As there's a television festival, there's a book festival at the same time, there's the Edinburgh Military Tattoo up there in front of the castle, Esplanade, and on and on. It takes most of August and it's absolutely huge, the largest sort of festival of its kind in the world, hugely successful. Anyone who's anyone in comedy has to do it from wherever you are, certainly in the Anglosphere, and that's that. But there are people, you can perform in other languages. Having said that, I can't think of anyone who does. There's no rule about language. Anyway, so you see some of the places here serving whiskey and all the rest of it. This clamshell is pretty revolting actually as fast food goes, and how tight-fisted they are. They're so mean-spirited, they won't even provide tap water. Thanks a lot. On the other hand, they might say, yeah, well, you are such a skinflint that you will not pay for water. And then again, we know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, because there's this stereotype that Scots people are mean with their money. I don't know if it's true. There's so many gags about that one. So it comes to Hogmanay, New Year, and a Scotsman says to his wife, all right, darling, so it's Hogmanay. So put your coat on. And she says, oh, that's nice, you're taking me out for a drink. And he says, no, I'm switching off the heating. Okay, new assembly close. So you see these alleyways, and some of them go steep, quite steep down, because we're sort of the spine of this hill, and off this ridge the land declines very abruptly. Okay, the Scottish experience, so yet more stuff you can buy, loads of souvenirs, but then if you look up above, it's actually quite plain and dull, a lot of it. Maybe it's a bit too corporate, a bit too samey, you know, homogenized, these global brands. Place is losing its individuality, and obviously national identity, well, that's collective individuality. Porrick Pierce, not my favourite chum, said a nation is a family in large. Well, don't quite agree with him. Which nation is he? English? Because he was half English. The Albanach, okay, as in the Scottish one, the Scots or whatever, in Scots Gaelic, or we can say in Irish. Not being to be rude, I mean, I accept, okay, it's a language, is it a dialect of Irish? Maybe Irish is a dialect of Scots Gaelic, I'm not offended by that. So you see signs up in it quite a lot, particularly on the west coast, even though very few people speak it. There's also Scots. Now, is Scots a dialect or a language or just bad English or what? Which is related to English, but it's not. I mean, it's got almost every vowel is different. It's got some unique words and slightly different grammar and so on. So when the Scots Parliament got going, it decreed that that is a language and it's equally worthy of respect and so on. So people used to sometimes say, talking broad Scots, as in they're not just speaking English with a Scots accent, they really are speaking Scots. Now, despite my spending 6 years here, there's some Scots I wouldn't understand some words. Okay, so have another little look around a bit about a bit of the Royal Mile. You see how far we've come, you know, on to High Street, down to Hunter Square. There are so many hotels around here coming to the North Bridge. But anyway, look at the Tron Kirk, Tron as in throne Kirk. It's a World Heritage Site and it's very, very tall considering it's actually not that large an area. There's something in the human mind which associates altitude with sacredness. As they praise to the holiest in the height, Hosanna in excelsis and all the rest of it. Minarets very tall, steeples very tall, and all the rest of it. Look at the spire of this church. I can't read the whole thing. Very, very high up. The Tron Kirk. So that was obviously run by the Church of Scotland until, goodness, late into the 20th century. Since I've been coming to Edinburgh a lot, since the 90s, it's not been open for worship. They've even used it as a performance space for the Edinburgh Festival. When Bonnie Prince Charlie came here in 1745 as in descendant, grandson of King James II, so he wanted to make himself King of Scots, King of Ireland, King of England. It was during, let me see, the War of Austrian Succession. It was backed up by France. I shan't tell the whole story now. So he took Edinburgh, as in the British Army wasn't here. British Army, Scots, Welsh, English together. It's not a Scottish nationalist thing, despite some people misunderstanding it. He wanted to rule Scotland and England and Wales and Ireland. He was going to reverse the Act of Union, but rule all the kingdoms, all three kingdoms. Anyway, but he did take Edinburgh Castle. That was held by the British Army, loyal to the Hanoverians. That's loyal to King George the Second. The minister of Tron, Kirk, was had to offer prayers on Sunday to the monarch. Who is the monarch? Was it King George II, or was it Bonnie Prince Charlie's father? So it was a bit risky for him to say either, because he didn't want to offend either. He didn't know which way it was going to go. So he sort of offered some blessing for that young man who lately entered the city, as in the 26-year-old Bonnie Prince Charlie. And Bonnie Prince Charlie was amused by this and didn't punish him. So Bonnie Prince Charlie held court at Holyrood House down the foot of the hill, but never managed to take Edinburgh Castle. He didn't have any artillery, and it was a very well-defended castle, a very tough nut to crack. Okay, so that's enough for me on the Royal Mile. I might continue down the Royal Mile a bit later.